So U.S. income inequality has hit the highest level in 50 years, we have just learned. And this is measured using something called the Gini index, Gini. Let's talk about how the metric works. This is a measure of distribution of income or wealth. You can have an income distribution measured with Gini or wealth distribution, and it's across income percentiles. So it goes from 0 to 1. 0 would be there is perfect equality. If everyone has the same income, the Gini coefficient is 0. If everyone has the same wealth, the Gini coefficient is 0. 1 would be perfect inequality, meaning if you have a country and one person has all the income or all the wealth, the Gini coefficients for income and wealth respectively would be 1. And you can track it over time. So in the United States in 2017, it was 0.482, and it went up in 2018 to 0.485. It's an increase of about 0.5%. This is a very big calculation, so it moves really, really slowly. And then you can break it down in more detail if you want. You could let's look at a change in the inequality by gender, or look at it by the states people live in, blue states versus red states, or you could look at it by race or by age or whatever you want. Wealth inequality went up in quite a few heartland states, which is interesting because Donald Trump's trade policy is potentially to blame there, actually impacting inequality, both income and wealth in some of those heartland states. States on the East Coast and the West Coast still have higher inequality overall. And that's really not surprising since you have more wealthy people on the coasts. And the most equal states, interestingly enough, are Utah, Alaska, and the Dakotas, and maybe Iowa as well is on that list. And the right loves to look at that and say, look, you've got all these liberals who talk about equality and they say they want equality, but it's the red states that actually have the most equality. And of course, this is one of those very low energy interpretations. It's not a very high thinking interpretation, because the reason that a lot of red states have low inequality is that you just have way more people that are not doing well. And the truth is that the degree of inequality matters. There's lots of externalities as well, crime and others. But the reason for inequality is also really important. So if you want to get an understanding of this, if you want to understand inequality, number one, there's a lot of good books that I could recommend that you should read. But when you're looking at something like the Gini coefficient, you need to often look qualitatively. And if I'm to pick my battles, I have way less of a problem with an entrepreneur who becomes wealthy by creating something compared to someone who inherits a ton of money and then uses the money to buy influence and to influence legislation to allow them to get even wealthier. Now, I want to be clear. We can argue all inequality is a problem, whether it's inherited or whether it's the new rich of entrepreneurship and the tech world. But when you break it down, there are different categories. And it's important that on the left, if we want to fight against inequality, we should understand the sources of it and make sure that we're dealing with the most serious problems first. Now, that being said, we have a system that encourages even the entrepreneurs who become wealthy through the business they've created to then get into the influence peddling and to become one of the people that is indistinguishable from those who have just inherited money and use that money to peddle influence and to change legislation for their benefit. And then, of course, you also have entrepreneurs who are getting wealthy thanks to the tax sheltering laws and the other stuff that the legacy influence peddlers were able to get passed. So it's not a clean cut the way I might be suggesting, but the point is we should be able to look at this issue more qualitatively and really determine what is most important to be addressing right away. But the reality is that if this continues to go in the same direction of growing inequality, it's going to cause more social unrest. It's going to cause more crime. It's ultimately going to precipitate an increasingly unsustainable system. Now, the solution to the problem is different depending on your political ideology. You might have someone who is an actual socialist. I'm not talking about someone who wants, government health care, but you might have an actual socialist who says the only solution is to totally socialize the means of production, socialize property, and that's the way that we're going to fix this problem. Social democrats would have a different point of view, which is some degree of inequality is okay, but what we want to do is put some limits at the top and use those to raise the floor so that we are constricting inequality to a more narrow band such that people aren't getting left behind, such that the riches that come to some, the few, from the system that we have are by statute, by law, being reinvested to better circumstances for everybody. That would be a socially democratic approach. And that's really at the heart of a lot of the debate that is happening within the left right now. Certainly the right has a completely different point of view with so-called free markets and all of the other things that they say are really great, which have completely failed us over the last 150 years in this country. But the data, once again, income inequality increasing in the United States from 2017 to 2018.